Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So here's some interesting stuff. John Thune, the number two Republican in the Senate, he said that he might be open to censoring Trump. And you go, where were you? What, a month ago when that guy from Virginia was throwing this out there? I guess maybe this is a way of maybe trying to find a soul, or maybe it's just another major distraction from the reality that they're a bunch of cowards or complicit. As I said, there are two reasons why you're going to vote to not convict him. You're a coward or you're complicit. There are no other answers for me. But here to share some thoughts on the top news of the day and our fun day of impeachment, our good friend Scott Dworkin, co-founder of the Democratic Coalition, also host of the fabulous Dworkin Report. Scott, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, Rick, how are you?
So what do you think, Censor? Thune has this grand idea, thinks it might have some legs.
He's trying to distract from the fact that Trump incited an insurrection. And, or I can put it a different way. Trump helped organize a terrorist attack on the Capitol, and where 7 people died, including 3 police officers, and 140 officers were seriously injured that we know of as of right now. Countless trauma between dozens of my friends that work on the Hill on both sides of the party. A lot of friends are turning in their resignation letters because they can't go there anymore. They have panic attacks when they walk near the building. So, they can distract all they want, but anyone who votes not guilty is indicting themselves as well.
Now, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins asked the question that I think everybody, well, at least I wanted to know, and that is, what did Trump do? When did he do? What did he know? When did he know it? What did he do? That whole line. And Trump's lawyer, Mr. Van der Veen, he just blamed the Democrats. It's their fault. It's their fault. And I'll give him credit. He's probably a really good lawyer. He didn't bother to ask the question because he probably didn't want to know the answer.
And people should recognize the dereliction of duty as a crime in itself. And also that anybody who conspired with him in the dereliction of duty is also open to a criminal prosecution due to this. And so one thing I want to remind everybody is it's not over just with the impeachment trial. This will be investigated thoroughly. We will get to the bottom of this. A mix of press and Congress will make sure that they'll look into it. And I'm sure that the DOJ is going to look into it as well.
So let's get to the big question, because I don't see him being convicted. I don't see there being people of conscience stepping forward. Let's get that out of the way. Do you think there's a possibility that he's convicted?
He already was convicted by the American people.
Right.
And that's where the court that matters. He'll never have a role in public life ever again. And I think that's what's important here is nobody's going to want to touch him. He's too toxic for the rest of his life.
What do you say to the person then, Scott, who says, nobody's paying attention to this? The numbers are, the Nielsen numbers are out. Nobody's really watching this, and the Democrats didn't do the smart thing and put this on during prime time when people could actually consume it. That this is happening, but nobody's really paying attention to it.
Everybody sees it. Everybody sees what's going on. Nobody's really hiding unless you're, a very avid Trump fan and you're standing by his side. Then you're living in Newsback's world right now. But people are paying attention. After day one, most had seen enough, if they hadn't already seen enough. And remember, a lot of Americans are traumatized by this as well. They're scared it's going to happen in their city, and in their town, and they don't want it to be next because, what if Trump localizes this and turns it into, next, I don't like people in North Carolina, so I'm going to go to the Raleigh State Capitol, and all of my national friends, you should come down there and we should mob the Capitol. And just the threat of that can shut down a city. And this is costing us money. We're talking about $500 million spending on Capitol security. Now, Capitol security always should have been beefed up to this sort of level, to be real about it. It was not lax, but it should have done more. Before, but we're here. So we have the opportunity now to make it so that it's more protected than ever. And that'll ensure that, it never happens again. But I don't think in our lifetime something like this will happen again in the Capitol building, because I think it'll be protected for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, Lindsey Graham was reported saying yesterday that he believes that the Capitol Police should have used deadly force. That he's mad at them for not. Should that have happened? I mean, everybody who walked in, should they have just mowed them down?
I think that due to the experience and the military backgrounds of the Capitol Police, very distinguished officers, most of them have served in combat before. I think that, their restraint was a result of their training, because if they were, state trooper or local cop, no offense to my friends that are, but I would say that they wouldn't have the same restraint. You saw professionals in there that were managing the crisis situation the best that they could when they were fighting against the president of the United States. And that the whole thing is crazy. I always think of situations like this as what happened is what happened. And I don't want to talk away from it. I also have wondered, I will say that as a former body man for politicians, that there's a red line. And sadly, Ashley Babbitt crossed that red line. And I think one thing we should keep in mind is that, Pence, if they had gotten closer to him, they would have had the capability to defend him. If they had gotten closer to Speaker Pelosi, same thing. But members of Congress, they had no protection. They were not safe at all. Those two key officials had ample protection. But again, if you have hundreds of people rushing the door, who knows what can happen. And if they have nothing to lose and they're going to lose their democracy and they think they're going to lose everything, and they've been following this cult leader the whole time, and he gave me this excuse to be lawless and enter the Capitol, and he gave me the invitation here, and then you realize that it's just another Trump scam, and you're stuck in there, and now you're in federal prison.
No, it's important what you just laid out there, because I think Jamie Raskin and the Democrats did a pretty good job of explaining that mentality. That people really honestly and truthfully took it to their core, that their entire way of life was being taken from them, that their democracy was under attack, and that they did have license from the president to do whatever and however they had to do to stop this vote from happening. And I think that needs to get through even more.
Yeah, and they knew what they were doing. These dog whistles and these winks and nods. The only reason he talked about peaceful at all was so he could use it as further cover now. And that's the only reason he mentioned in his speech at all. We knew what he was saying. He was going to the Capitol, cause as big of a disturbance as you possibly can. That's why he didn't stop it, because he wanted them to take over the Capitol. He wanted them to kill people. We have to admit that and confront that fact. And I think Republicans are straight up in denial of the fact that he would have been okay if they were all killed. And I think that's one thing that we need to assess overall, is that Trump would have been okay with them somehow overtaking the Capitol. Again, logistically, it didn't make any sense in regards to the seat of power and how it would work. They could have, taken down the entire Capitol and it still wouldn't have transferred to him. But he could have somehow, maneuvered around and done things like martial law and acted like, oh, we need to have a new election because obviously there was fraud, and look at this attack on the Capitol that had nothing to do with, but the Patriots took it over, and the Trump snowball would keep on rolling downhill. So thankfully we had a lot of people fighting for our country, fighting for our country in the way that legally, and also speaking to the American people, and luckily we have good fighters on our side. I think, again, in the political realm, I've been in campaigns since 2003 now, and I just, dominoes fall, and anybody who makes this vote, doesn't matter what state you live in, this is one of those votes where it will haunt you for the rest of your life. It will be your legacy. It will be everything you're known for. And the parallels between what you'll be called in regards to being a traitor, because this is another sort of 9/11 on us, on top of the fact that we have the coronavirus deaths around this. I mean, there's so much trauma right now. The smoke hasn't cleared, but when it does, people in every state will want to not associate themselves with anybody who associated themselves with Trump. Because imagine this, not only these crimes, but look at what else we're going to uncover between now and months from now. And I just think that it would be really, really, and I don't use this word often, but stupid for anybody to think that I'm going to have Trump's back and that there's not going to be crimes coming out from that White House over the next few months and the next few years. Because I'm telling you, there are dozens of investigations open right now just on the Hill. So I don't know what's happening to DOJ, but I'm guessing it's not going to be patty cake time. Like, they're going to come after these people legally in every possible way. So I look for, after this trial, I would look for Trump being criminally charged. In Georgia specifically, if not New York City.
So then if we don't get witnesses in this trial, you believe we're going to get witnesses in the next?
And that's the thing is I believe there will be a criminal trial that's surrounding this, probably in Georgia, if not at the federal level. Most likely it would be in Georgia. And I think he'll have to actually face the music, if not, facing a misdemeanor charge in D.C., for incitement as well, but that's a tougher hill to climb. So I think Georgia's pretty straightforward, and there's an extortion or blackmail sort of threat in there as well. And these are not people who mess around. At the same time, he's incited violence in the cities where they're prosecuting him from. So I would find it interesting to see where this goes. But I would say that it's almost a certainty that he's going to be charged, with crimes between now and the next month. It's almost a certainty.
Well, we'll see where that goes. But, I want to hear from Kevin McCarthy now, because I'm sure you saw the story that's been breaking today, that there was a phone call as the riot is happening between Trump and McCarthy. And basically Trump saying, hey, well, they care about me more than you do, which is, I don't know that that's the right thing to be saying to somebody when their life is in danger. But I would be interested to see him under oath, testify to what happened in that phone call.
Sounds like a threat. That sounds like a threat to me, where it's seems like they care more about it. And, that's why I'm going to take care of them. That's why they're going to take care of you for me. This is all a mob.
It's all mob talk. It is.
This is how he's always been. And he's had mob affiliations for the past 40 years, directly from his dad. They had concrete that was pouring for the mob. They had AC, Atlantic City, for the mob. You had Trump being an informant for the FBI, mob-related as well. You have the Russian mob being busted in Trump Tower with a racketeering organization a floor below where he lived. And so, he is a mobster. And I think, again, we need to confront the fact that he was okay if people were killed. And he obviously that's truth, but he would have been okay with everybody being killed in that building. And I think we need to recognize that he will do this again. This is not something, just because he's out of office, it doesn't mean he's incapable. This is actually more dangerous now, because people think that they've accomplished something. They're assessing where they can hit next. And so they'll probably look at a soft target in a city that we're not focused on, with a governor of somebody that don't like, that they want to attack, that went after Trump or prosecuted him. And then we're going to have to deal with it in that city. So we have to stop it here before it spreads to local areas across the country, because if he takes that national audience and focuses it on, I'm angry about Atlanta because they're charging me with this. I mean, he can cause riots easily. He doesn't need social media to do that. He can rile people up on his own. He can talk to his Flynn brother generals and ask his help from Blackwater and people like that. This is scary sort of stuff, and people should take it absolutely seriously. There's no reason not to take it seriously. Right. And so my hope is that he's criminally charged for every crime that he's committed. And obviously we have a list, so we're going to be pursuing it from every angle.
No, I mean, this is, you brought up really the most important part of all this is all the organizing that's been going on in these militia groups, the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers, the Boogaloo Boys, all of these crazy groups that are out there. They're organizing together. They've gone back underground. And you're right. The fear is that they do take on a softer target. They do, overtake a capital somewhere again, as they've done out west with the Bundy folks. I mean, this is troublesome. So, how do you get the Republican Party to come around? Because I've been saying for the longest time, the only way we save this country is if there are some Republicans of conscience to step forward and say, we're going to stop this. And then this is that moment where you need more than just a handful. You need a good portion of the Republican Party to say, no, this isn't who we are. Do you see that happening?
I think they'll reflect in the polling, the abysmal polling that Trump has. They'll act like they never met him. I give that a month until Cheney and Kinzinger are the leaders of the Republican Party. The people who didn't touch the hot potato or commit treason. I would see them starting to take over the party because it's the only credible path that they have for a party. And I would see major donors seeing that very clearly, that anybody who is a Marjorie Taylor Greene of the party is an untouchable at this point and should not be interacted with. I will tell you this, as a Browns fan, I am not a person who forgets or gives up. And with these people that have committed seditious acts within our government, we took on Trump for 5 years. And so any of the reps or senators that, think that it's a great idea to stay in office, go ahead and do so. But if you are corrupt and you've committed crimes, then we will legally pursue every avenue available to make sure that you're prosecuted for whatever we can possibly find, because if there are crimes that were committed. And I can tell you this, I have investigated everybody in Trump's circle, and I haven't found one person that hasn't committed a crime. Not one. Well, except for, apologies, Rod Rosenstein was the one person, and I guess Robert Mueller, but he's not in his circle. But Rod Rosenstein was the one kind of Boy Scout seeming person, and then obviously he committed crimes during the end of the Trump protest.
Last question I've got for you, because in this frame that it's going to be the Republicans who save us. Unfortunately, I look at these stories coming out about the Lincoln Project. Now the co-founder has resigned. I guess you had sexual harassment allegations. I guess it was last week. They seem to be in a little chaos.
Sure, it's that's their organization. That's on them. That's not how I run my organization. I'm not sure exactly what went on fully, and I'm not trying to deny or deflect or anything like that. But I wouldn't have ignored that. I would never ignore anything like that. And in the 20 years that I've been in politics, I would never look over that or try to cover that up. That person would be terminated immediately with cause, and then an immediate investigation would be then implemented by a third party outside, and a law firm would then do an assessment of the situation. You have a compliance person to make sure that the financials are in order. There's a lot of ducks that you get in a row for that, but there's a zero tolerance for that kind of stuff, because otherwise it spins out of control like it is right now. And it's sad to see, but they were. Kurt Bardella is a phenomenal guy, and he's still with them, and so I think that they might be able to recover, but it's going to be some hard times for them right now, and I don't feel bad for them about that.
I'm with you, Scott. I appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Our good friend Scott Dworkin. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. Where working people come to talk.
Remembering that united we bargain, divided we beg. Rick Smith.